You are a unique individual with the powers to change lives just by being who you are, sharing your wisdom, and telling your story. Welcome, everybody, to Jen's Pen Live, where we find interesting people who make the world a better place and ask them to share their story. Today, we are speaking with Shannon Downey. She is a badass cross stitch. Shannon, welcome.
Thanks, Jen.
So let's just share. What do you do to make the world a better place?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think everything I do is like an attempt at doing something good in the world every day. So I'm an artist and activist, and I sort of found a way to merge those two things into like a community organizing tool. So sort of started stitching as a grown-up, just looking for a way to have a little digital analog balance in my life because I was very digital all the time and needed something.
Yeah.
And then I started stitching and I was like, oh, this is great. I feel great. I have good ideas. This is awesome. And then I quickly started to merge my stitching with the work that I do in the world and my activism, and found it like a really great opportunity for self-reflection. And then I started sharing it and I started writing a bunch, and then other folks were really into it. And I sort of followed that path and I was like, I don't know, I think this could be a thing, which is bonkers. Like, you know, embroidery as a community organizing tool doesn't really sound like a thing, but
No.
but
it is cool.
It is. And so now, like a year and a half ago, I sold everything I owned, gave up my job, moved into an RV that I bought, and started traveling the country, and have been, you know, now full-time focused on using art as a tool within movement building, and using it as a mechanism for bringing strangers together and teaching them something new, having them be a little uncomfortable, and then engaging in really hard conversations that you would not normally talk to strangers about, as a way to sort of destigmatize, you know, the issues and topics that we're taught never ever to talk about with strangers in polite company.
Polite company.
Exactly.
Well, oh my goodness, I want to dive right in there, but let's first start with a story about how you got to where you did. Like, how did that even happen? Tell us that story.
Yeah, I was running a digital marketing company for this. That was like year 8 of 10. And I was connected to a device 24/7, and I hated everything because I was connected to a device 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to be on Etsy one day and I found this really great Star Trek cross stitch pattern. And I was like, oh my God, I love Star Trek so much. And like, I was like, that's so funny. I have to buy this and stitch it, because I learned how to stitch in 5th grade. Like, you know, I had to make a pink bunny. And I was like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
But Star Trek, that's brilliant. So I bought it, I stitched it, and like the next day I had like 3 good ideas, and I had not had a good idea or any idea in like months. And so I was like, oh, let's see if these 2 things are connected. And so I started stitching a little bit every day, and then quickly started to see the value of sort of taking that space and time. And what I really like about stitching is that it sort of solves for your tactile hand issues that we have now developed by having this in our hand all the time.
Yes, like all, yes.
Yeah. So like, instead of trying to like, you know, force myself to meditate, which I also do, but this was like, oh, this gives me the same feedback as sitting down and meditating, but I don't have the frustration because my hands are busy. So I don't even notice that I'm not on my phone, because I'm using my hands kind of in the same way that I do when I'm on my device. So that was exciting. And then I started to see that if I like used these images on social media, people would stop, and then they would like read what I wrote. And I was like, oh, this is a really great like stop sign. And so I started using the embroidery to get people to stop to read. And then, you know, the reading was an invitation to think with me about something, and then engage in actual conversation about those things. And it really blew up and started, and like folks really wanted to do this. And then folks were like, oh, I want to learn how to stitch. I'm like, oh yeah, let's do that. So I started getting, because for me, social media is like a way to get people together in real life, right? Like to connect with people so that I can take you offline and bring you in real life, and we can like actually share a space together.
Yeah.
And so I brought people together and I started teaching them how to stitch. And then, you know, I've done thousands of these events. And so really have sort of perfected the process that creates a space that feels safe and welcoming, and like folks feel connected, and like they want to be there, they want to try something new, and they want to have these sort of challenging conversations with strangers. So
that's amazing. So tell us, there's so much. Okay, let's go with this one. I'm like, there are 50 different ideas I want to go with, but let's choose one. Tell us about your activism. What is it that you are talking to people about?
Well, I like to say I focus on the big three, which means I can really focus on anything, because it's like patriarchy, capitalism, and white supremacy. So, you know, the big one.
Pretty much everything, yeah.
Right. The giant systems that rule our lives. And then, you know, everything sort of falls in one of those categories, or many of those categories.
Yeah, they're definitely.
Yeah, they're all tied up there. Yeah, so I mean, sometimes it's like specific, like we're getting together and everybody knows that like we're going to be talking about gun violence, or, you know, we're going to be talking about religion. And sometimes, and most of the time, it's really just like, what does the room want, you know? And it's not even necessarily like a big structured conversation. It's just this invitation to talk about and stitch about something that's on your mind. And so folks have these interpersonal experiences in the room, and a lot of times it doesn't even involve me, which is what I want, right? Like, I don't want these to have to like center me. I want it like everybody to feel safe and supported enough to have these conversations, so that they can like get the practice of having these conversations in a way that is really like non-combative. Right. And embroidery does offer a really great opportunity for that, because like you're working on something, so you're not just staring at somebody being like, let's talk about abortion, right? Like that's terrifying. But if you're sitting with strangers and everybody's working on their thing, and you don't have to have any of the body language that usually gets in the way of you're stitching, so everything slows down. So you're physically slowing down, and then the conversation can slow down. And if you get uncomfortable, you can just go back to what you're working on. Like nobody expects you to 100% all the time engage. So if you do feel triggered, or you do like want to think about something before you respond, you just go back to what you're doing, and then you can, you know, bounce back into the conversation when you're ready. So it really does offer a really great environment and tool to facilitate some of these things.
That's incredible. What a cool thing to discover. I mean, like so random. You would never ever think, oh, cross stitching. That's a great way to get into this sort of thing.
No.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
I just sort of followed it, and I was like, oh, this is working. Oh, what if I do this? What if I try this? And now I'm like, oh, this works. And everybody, here's the formula, like go do it.
Amazing. You know, it does seem, not even does it is true that when you open yourself up to these sorts of things, when they fall into your lap, and if you just go with them, trusting that they're going to lead somewhere, they lead to somewhere amazing that you couldn't have even thought of yourself. I mean, how would you have thought of that?
No, never. Never. I'm like, my life doesn't make any sense, but it makes perfect sense. Like, I needed all of these skill sets that I had and all the experiences that I had to get to the place where it all clicked, and it all like culminated into this like super weird, you never could have figured it out if you tried to plan it out.
Right.
but I like kept following, I like to say I followed my curiosity, right? Like I just kept following my curiosity and tried stuff, and lots of stuff didn't work.
Right.
And, you find the ones that do, and you're like, all right, let's build on that. Let's build on
Right.
that.
You go with that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Okay, so let's go with one of the other bazillion thoughts I'm having here. So where do you do these things?
Everywhere. So,
Yeah.
like I've been in Winston-Salem, North Carolina now for, it's been home base for like 2 months.
Okay.
Um, and so from here, I've done a bunch of these events in collaboration with like the local fabric shop, right? The local women-owned fabric shop,
Mm.
or the contemporary art museum that's here. I drove to Atlanta and I did a bunch at like the Zuckerman Gallery or Museum at Kennesaw State, and then the Museum of Design in Atlanta. But like I've done them in people's backyards, right? Like as I drive through, I'm parking in people's driveways, right? So like one of the pandemic issues was that one, all the RV parks shut down right as I was
Oh,
launching.
wow. Yeah. Okay.
And then when they did open up, everybody had bought RVs. And so they're all full. And I was like, this is terrible timing for me. And so what I ended up doing was making a Google form. And I was like, hey, anybody who has a flat driveway and a plug, if you're willing to host me a couple days, like I will come and park at your place, and that would be amazing. And if you want, we can do a community event. And so over 3,000 people have offered up their driveways. So like as I'm traveling, I'm just staying with strangers. And it's been amazing because I've met the coolest people. And then, in some cases there's stitchers, or they know me through the textile world. And so we plan backyard events and like block parties and shit. And then, and sometimes it's, I jump in with their quilt club or their quilt guild. And so it really is like, I'll do it anywhere. I don't care. So it's everywhere, from these contemporary art galleries to people's driveways.
So that's so cool. So can you think of a story? Does anything come to mind where you had an event like this and like you noticed the impact it had on another person yeah. So tell me.
Yeah. Well, one thing I noticed, I'll tell you an actual story, but one thing that I noticed that like for me demonstrates that this is like that I have created a space where this works is like the fact that people like adults are coming to a 2-hour workshop, and at the end they're exchanging numbers and making plans to like get together and like hang out and stitch and whatever. And I'm like, that's what we need. Like we need opportunities to make new friends as adults.
Yes.
And so like seeing that happen makes me really happy, because I'm like that is impact enough for me. Like y'all are connecting for real. And so when I leave, this can continue and these relationships can continue, which is the whole point for me.
Right.
But so this gal Maggie, I love her so much. So she came to one of my first stitch ups in Chicago and learned how to stitch, and she was so great. And I don't tell people what to stitch, which throws some people off at the beginning. Okay. And so she was like panicking. She's like, I don't know what to stitch. But she had an inhaler on the table. And so she grabbed the inhaler and, stenciled it onto the piece and was stitching the inhaler. And then she came to another one a couple months later, and I was like, oh, you're back. This is great. And she's like, I have to tell you that after the first one, she's like, I have spent my entire life being resentful that I have asthma and that I have to carry this inhaler around with me all the time, and that like my life depends on this and I can never forget it. And like really these negative thoughts around it. She's like, and sitting there and stitching this thing and thinking about it and spending time with it, she's like, it totally transformed my relationship with her asthma, but also with like her inhaler. She's like, how lucky am I that all I have to do is carry this tiny little thing around with me and it can save my life. Like I would be dead without it. I would, and so she's like, and she started crying and she's like, I have to come back. Like I had to come back and stitch more. And like, I just love her so much. And so it was just this like moment where, I didn't do anything. I just made this space for her, but she was able to take that experience and really like transform her entire thinking about something that has really upset her for a large portion of her life, and really find gratitude in that. And so I love that story so much because
It is a great story.
She's the best.
That's amazing. And gratitude is so important, not to like go off on a tangent, but it changes your life. Like the second you can be grateful for something, your entire view changes of the world. It's crazy. Anyway, excuse me. So, do you have any other stories that you can tell us about transformation through stitching?
I mean, so I have a community project called Badass Herstory.
Yes.
And the whole reason why I started that was because like I started having all of these women in particular in my workshops who, the untrained artists, right? Like folks who are trying something new. And they're doing all of these like community projects and they're doing all of these craftivism projects, right? But they're all like externally focused. So it's like, I am making a blanket for this. I am making a thing to raise money for this. I am making about this. And I'm like a firm believer that if you want to change the world, the first thing you have to do is deal with your shit.
Yes.
And so I'm like, I was like looking around and felt like what was missing was a project that asked folks to center themselves and center their own story, particularly women, because I think that that's not a space that's creative for us often. And so I launched Herstory, and the idea is that you stitch me your story or like anything on fabric, like a 12 by 12 panel. And it's just like, what is your story? And, all my other projects, the minute I launched them, there were just thousands of people like, yeah. And this one I launched and folks were like, ooh, yeah, maybe not so much, Shannon. I was like, what the hell is that about? And so I needed to know like what that was about. And did I just create a bum project, right? And so I started to ask people like, why are you so hesitant to participate in this one? And it was like, well, I haven't done anything. I don't have a story. Like I'm just a mother, right? Like, or I feel guilty taking time to make art about myself. Like I should be making it for these causes and issues. And I was like, oh, so like your patriarchal programming, which makes me, I'm doubling down on this. Like, I'm doubling down. And so once I identified that and started to talk about it differently, I talk about it as a tool of self-empowerment and a tool of feminism, folks started to think about it differently. And like they were able to see like why it was too hard and too scary at first. And then, because I'm not a jerk, I came up with like 50 different activities to help them develop their story because, that's hard.
Yeah, it is. People have a hard time even admitting that they have a story to tell. I get that.
Yes, right? If anyone knows it, you know it. So watching the experience of all of these folks who were like, nah, and then going like thinking like, okay, I'm gonna try this because Shannon said to, and then like going through the process and watching that transformation of like them being able to find a part of their story or find a way to encompass their story and then translate it to a piece of art, which is tricky, especially if you're not like a lifetime artist, like you go to art school, you have to make shit about yourself all the time. Right. But if you don't, it's this like scary endeavor.
Right. especially for people who are just not used to thinking about themselves, which is a lot of women.
In particular, yeah. So it's been magical watching people's evolution in their creation process.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited because so the first like 130 submissions are going to be on display at the National Liberty Museum in Philadelphia starting on November 5th. And so because what I get to see them all, right? And I get to like read all the stories, and so seeing them all together, I'm really excited about that. And then the sheer number of people who are coming in to see their work on a museum wall, because they're just like, I can't believe the work's going to be in a museum now, you know? But it gives it another like layer of validation for them, you know? And so it's like, oh, not only did I figure this shit out, make some art about it, but like now it's going to be in community with, you know, hundreds of other artists and makers, and then like on display in a museum. How great is that? And so for me, this project is going to take the rest of my life, and I'm just going to like, until I get, you know, 1 million submissions, I'm not done. So
it's amazing. So how long is the exhibit going to be up?
So the exhibit will be up, I think, through the beginning of January. So it'll be up for,
okay, so I can get there.
Yeah. So it's going to be like 265 of my pieces. So it's like 2 bodies of my work. It's an installation piece, and then I'm debuting a new piece that's gonna pack some punch.
Rock some socks off.
It's gonna do something. And then the herstory, all of those pieces will be on display as well. So
it's definitely be
really fun.
That's amazing. We're going to definitely be including that information in the comment section so people can go. That is so cool. Oh my God. You know, you and I should be talking about stories and stuff like that. You and I should talk about doing something together in the future.
Totally. I would love that.
That'll be so fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm excited about, like, I'm sorry, I'm like getting chills about this idea of going to see this display. This is so cool.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, we're coming up on, I don't want to get into anything else because I don't want to go like way past your time here.
Get that?
But yeah, let's definitely do this again.
That'd be
especially fun. Now once the exhibit's up and you get sort of your, you know, whatever your reaction is, we can talk about that. It's gonna be so much fun. Oh my God, I'm so excited about this, the exhibit. That's so cool.
Me too. I can't wait. I'm like, TikTok, when can I get up there?
Come on, let's go.
Right? Time's moving very slow right now.
It is really incredible the transformation you're able to affect in people's lives with this.
I mean, they show up and they do all the work, and but like, it wouldn't work if they didn't show up, right? And so I'm always so grateful that they keep showing up, and that that they want to keep doing this, because I'm like it shows me that it shows them that this is like a thing, right?
Yeah, it's needed.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean? Like,
we can have positive, like, real impacts and make change through these really unexpected moments together. And so I'm all about, how do we create these unexpected moments that can connect people, but also, you know, like, get through the bullshit, you know, like, we can just sit down and talk about money. Like, how much money do you make a year? You know, like, let's talk about these things, so that you know, we're not going to ever have, you know, equity or justice if there are still secrets, and we're lacking transparency, and we are uncomfortable, and there's shame, and like, none of those things can exist at the same time as justice. And so we have to have these things out there, and we have to get okay with being uncomfortable, but still talking about them.
Absolutely. It's life is hard enough without having to not be able to talk about these things. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard enough to go through these things, then not to be able to talk about them on top of that the fact that you're able to create a space with this where people can come and learn and grow and change is such a special thing.
Thanks. I'm having a great time doing it too. Every morning I get up and I'm like, yay, I can't believe I get to do this again. Like,
That is such an awesome thing.
it really is.
Especially, you know,
The other day somebody was like, don't you get a little bored? Like, isn't there a set? And I was like, what? No. You know what I get bored doing is like emptying my tanks, like that's boring. But like
right.
being in community with people and seeing what comes of it is magic. It gets me through a day. It reaffirms my faith in humanity at a time when I constantly need these affirmations of humanity.
Yes. We all need those affirmations. Honestly, I mean, I think
that's why people come, because they're like, oh, right, people are good. And like,
right.
yeah, this is that we can connect, even if we
Yes.
disagree. This can be a thing.
It's really, that really is such a powerful thing in this time right now, in these days, like to be able to get together in a space and discuss with people who you may or may not agree with, in just in a place where you're expected to be civil.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And the expectation is on discovery and cooperation. I mean, it's such a different thing for these days, because these days when there are large gatherings of people, generally there's calling for blood and stuff. It's
yeah. I mean, sometimes there's blood involved, but it's just people are stitching with needles. Little
sharp needles. That's so funny. Oh wow. Okay, great. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have another conversation about this.
Yeah, I'd love that. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Shannon, for giving us your time. Everybody else, don't forget, Shannon will also tell you that everyone has a story to tell. So think about it. What's yours?